Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video, we're going to continue our look at painting a Stormcast Eternal Castigator in a bronze color scheme. This is part 2. And so as you can see here, we have our model all ready to go, and we're going to paint the cloth sections of the model, and we're going to go for something that's looks good next to the bronze. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to work with Incubi Darkness as our base tone. This is a really fantastic color. I like this color a lot. It gets used a lot in a lot of my painting schemes. I'm going to use a medium application brush for this. I can't remember what this brush is called. Basecoating, but medium basecoating brush. And basically I'm just going to thin this down just with the dampness of the brush and begin applying it to the surface. Now, because we have that gloss prime down on the model, we will have to apply the paint in 2 coats, but as you can see here, it applies just very nicely. Sometimes when you have a really tight surface tension, sometimes the paint, if you've overly thinned it, can bead up and not apply very nicely. But because we have not really thinned the paint out that much, it's going on very, very well. So after 2 coats, you can see here how the paint is nice and smooth. We're going to simply take some Dark Reaper. We're going to add this to the Incubi Darkness, giving us a roughly mix of 1:1. And then we are beginning to apply this. Now I'm going on the folds on the upper portion here. I'm going to apply it pretty much on every raised portion of the fold, the entire length of the fold, or the detail itself, across those areas. On the cloth, on the loincloth area, I'm going to apply it a majority of the length up the loincloth area, as you can see here. Again, I'm trying to leave some of the darker color in the recess. We're not using any shade washes to achieve our desired shading results. We're simply starting off with a dark color, and we're going to begin working our color all the way up, which, again, as some of you might recognize listening to me rant on about painting and such, often I encourage people to not rely on shade washes to achieve a majority of their effects. So this is one way to go about that. If you know what kind of color scheme you're going to go with, you can simply just start with the deepest color and build your way up from that, or we'll demonstrate it in other fashions as well. And you can see here I'm just simply applying this down, and as I'm laying it onto the cloth, I'm actually using vertical type of brush strokes here to do the cape that hangs over the bum. That's just, in case any brush strokes or what have you, it gives you that kind of cloth-like feeling in those vertical strokes, rather than moving it around left, right, up, down, side to side kind of things. It just, it gets kind of blotchy. Although, unless, of course, that's the kind of look you're going for. But once that's done, we're going to come in with pure Dark Reaper. And again, we're not thinning this down with anything other than just the dampness of the brush. And we're going to apply this on the uppermost portions, but we're concentrating most of this, especially on the chest portion here. We're trying to concentrate most of this color in the center of that detail, so that it seems like the light is gathering in the middle, as it were, and getting darker out towards the shoulders. On the loincloth, we're applying the highlights along the bottom portion of the cloth. Again, kind of just going for a bit of a stylized approach as the light would gather. Again, with the cloak on the back side, on his bum, we're painting the high points of the cloth, but also building the color out towards the ends of the cloth, the bottom of the cloth, as it were. And again, this is more of a stylized type of approach. This is not a realism. This is not a zenithal highlighting scheme. This is not even edge highlighting. This is just simply a layered highlight that we're applying over the model. Here you can see I'm using those vertical brush strokes again, just to create a little bit of visual interest. Anywhere where the area gets really kind of large, I will just use that technique just to kind of give that hint of cloth. And again, here I'm trying to keep my highlights pretty much into the middle of those details. Again, you can see, like, in that bottom portion of that cloth, really there would be no light that would gather there, but we're putting highlights there. So again, it's a stylized approach. Thunderhawk Blue is going to get added into this little mixture, giving us roughly a 1:1 mix ratio. Again, we're just trying to find the in-between from Thunderhawk Blue is really all we're looking for. And again, here's a very fine highlight we're going to go with on the uppermost portions. And again, this highlight will go by fairly quickly because we're just catching just very tips, and we're trying to keep that highlight in towards the center. For the loincloth, we're going just at the very ends. Again, we're just very lightly building up those the highlights there. And again, this is just a stylized approach, so don't be worried if it doesn't look, realistic or anything. That's not the kind of look we're going for. This is a very stylized approach, and I think it looks very fun on the tabletop, especially when you go with these kind of, bold kind of colors, and you use bold brush strokes, as it were. And so we just simply continue on with our highlighting in such a fashion that we're going for what looks good on the tabletop, not so much award-winning type of painting. We're not too concerned about that. So once we're done with that mixture, we are going to come in with pure, uncut Thunderhawk blue. With this Thunderhawk blue, we're simply going to slap it onto our palette, just thin it down with the dampness of our brush, and just the tiniest of highlights in the central area. That is it. It's just a couple little brush strokes, and we're pretty much done with those little areas. On the bottom of the cloak, you can see, or the loincloth, you can see just a very fine little highlight. Now, if you felt inclined to do like a little bit of edging and such, by all means, feel free, go right ahead. It is, very fitting to go with this kind of highlighting scheme that we are doing on this model. Here, I'm just simply catching just the ends and the uppermost portion of that fold. Kind of nicked an area there that I didn't want to get, but that's okay, because, you just make lemonade whenever you make a little boo-boo like that. Don't get all bent out of shape and think, oh no, I've got to repaint this or strip it down and start all over again. Don't worry about it. Just go right over it. Make lemonade, as it were. But that is it. That is Thunderhawk blue. We could go a little bit further, but I think for this portion, for anybody who likes this kind of color scheme, doing bronze castigators like this, or even the rest of your Stormcast Eternals, I think this is kind of a fun color scheme. But we are going to push it a little bit further, so stay tuned for part 3 in our Stormcast Eternal Castigators. Huge thank you to all my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below. And there are varying tiers to support at. Take care of those brushes, and they will take care of you.